What's so fun about this job is you get to work with all different types of clients that have different needs or different objectives. The key really is to try to understand what those are, what's working, what's not working, and then again trying to figure out, at least from an Ocean perspective, how can we add value? So how can we solve a problem? How can we think creatively, do something different that's going to help improve their supply chain. The one thing we can always count on is that markets change, right? They go up, they go down. Sometimes there's overcapacity, sometimes there's undercapacity. My goal is always to make sure that we have access to services and capacity at market competitive pricing, so that we can focus on solutions. The last couple of years, or prior to the market softening, the main thing all customers wanted was access to capacity, right? So being able to find that capacity, right, even if the price was shockingly high, it was still a requirement. The way I set up a product and work with ocean carriers is really designed to manage whether or not the market's high or the market is low. And so during the pandemic, when the market was high, consistency of our shipments really ensured access to the capacity that we had. And then in a lot of cases, we would get approached by our carrier partners with additional discretionary capacity when our competitors didn't show up and they had extra space. They would come to us first because they know when we said yes, we would deliver the cargo. So it's really about understanding what drives the ocean carriers as a mid-sized forwarder that doesn't have the brand recognition of the really big guys, is figuring out how to stay relevant and make sure that the carriers that we choose to partner with are motivated to put us on a level playing field. When the market's really strong and rates are up, it certainly creates challenges around capacity, and rates go up. But there's a lot of stress in the system when rates go down and there's too much capacity, because you'll see ocean carriers start to remove services on relatively short notice. And again, it's another space for Pegasus to fill. If a large shipper has a direct ocean carrier contract and that carrier decides to omit a port or void or blank a sailing because the vessel utilization is not particularly strong, then working with a company like Pegasus will make sure that we can switch that business to another carrier to keep cargo moving and avoid delays and disruption to your supply chain. We had customers that got dropped by their carriers during the pandemic because they didn't have space to continue the relationship. I could never envision a time where Pegasus would do that to a customer, right? So one carrier stops providing a service or the service starts to fail, we have additional carrier options and can very quickly make a shift where the large carriers will struggle to do that. There's a wide range of additional services, right, starting at the origin side, where we can arrange for picking up goods at a supplier's facility and bring it to the port, export customs clearance. There's the ability to provide enhanced track and trace and order management solutions that provide better visibility from start to finish on your shipments. On the destination side as well, customs brokerage becomes really important, helping importers navigate through customs, making sure that they're not overpaying duties or underpaying duties, and all the way to providing destination services. And I think that's also one of the advantages of Pegasus, is that not just even outside of the typical, deliver a full container to a customer, if there's an emergency or there's a delay, right, we have the ability to unload the container at a port and then put it into our domestic network. So there's a host of destination, logistics related services that we can very seamlessly tie into an ocean shipment. Visibility tends to be more important for importers than it does for exporters, usually, not always. And it's not that customers necessarily need to track every shipment, but they want to manage exceptions, right? Because those exceptions typically drive unbudgeted costs into their supply chain. So whether or not they're going to miss delivery window for a client, or they're going to shut down a production line, right? So either way, it tends to translate into lost sales. Having visibility, end-to-end visibility, really allows you to manage those exceptions. If something's not going to make it on time, right, we have options to end a voyage at a port and offload it, and then urgently ship it or expedite it to to anywhere in the United States. We can fly replacement cargo in from origin, right? If the ocean shipment's not going to arrive on time. So it's really having that visibility to when something doesn't go the way it's supposed to, so that you can manage it and avoid any significant consequence right to your organization. Additionally, having the visibility also allows you to measure overall performance. So you can adjust lead times, reduce inventory carrying costs, and then of course to manage the performance of your providers, which providers are delivering consistently on time, which ones have overcommitted. It's just a great data point that allows you to make good sourcing decisions. There's a lot of freight forwarders in the marketplace, and so it's important to differentiate yourself, not only to your customers, but also to the carriers that we're working with. There's been so much industry consolidation that the top 6 ocean carriers are, and I would say roughly 75% of the global capacity. My approach is to be that preferred mid-sized forwarder. All carriers want to work with smaller forwarders because they don't want to over-rely on the big guys because they lose all their leverage. But they have so many to choose from, right? They typically they want to work with 25 or 50 or maybe 100. I kind of view my job as making sure that we're one of those preferred mid-sized forwarders that ensure we're on a level playing field. What really drives ocean carriers is vessel utilization. And so I've implemented an allocation management process here at Pegasus that really designed to make sure that we're consistently delivering the volumes that we've committed to each of our carriers. And by doing that, right, it allows us to build the credibility that we need, so when we need a special price, or we need a special service, or we need extra space, we're positioned properly for the carrier to say yes to that. It's that transparency and living up to commitments, which I think is not any different than the way we approach our customers, right? We're transparent, talk about what's market conditions, look for solutions, and then live up to the commitments that we make. The challenge is that a lot of customers don't know. They don't know a lot about international transportation. It can get complicated working in different markets, and so I think understanding legal, regulatory, how business works in different markets is really important, and they're all great questions, right, for customers to ask us. And again, that's part of our job, is to help them navigate through complex international transportation as best we can. One of the advantages of working with Pegasus or companies like Pegasus are that we're adaptable, right? We're fast, we're flexible. Shippers working with ocean carriers, and there are a lot of great ocean carriers out there, and same with our larger competitors. They offer, some of them offer wonderful service, but they've become so big that it's hard for them to move quickly and make adjustments. Some of them over time become inflexible, and I think that's the value of working with a company like Pegasus, is that we're going to sit and listen to your requirements, and then put a solution together. Give us a try. We're kind of, I would say, the industry's best kept secret, but I feel really confident about the state of our ocean product. What I've been able to develop in a relatively short period of time that will only continue to strengthen over the coming weeks and months, but that we have flexible ocean solutions, right, for all types of customers, really large ones that work with direct carriers to smaller ones that don't have enough volume to get that kind of traction with a direct ocean carrier, where we can provide that first-class experience on the ocean side.